First and only review of the day is going to be for the anime series Samurai Champloo. Samurai Champloo is another series from the famed anime creator here, Shinichirō Watanabe, who did Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop, which a lot of people consider one of the greatest animes of all time. Like we talked about when we discussed the movie just recently. Probably one of the top five animes. A lot of people bring it up. A great introduction starter anime for a lot of people. Cowboy Bebop is. They just I think if you want to get into anime and want to kind of something to ease people into it, yeah, start people off with Cowboy Bebop, real short and sweet. And this is very much, I think, a great starter anime as well. Nothing crazy happening here. There's no tentacle monster. There's no people with objects coming out of their head or nothing like that. It's just super simple. You have samurais in the Edo period. That's what you got here. And the two samurais that you have here are Mugen and Jin here. You also have another part of their trio is Fu. So simple story here is they have a chance meeting here where they all kind of get together and they end up becoming the bodyguards of Fu because she tasked them out with a help her with a mission, and that is finding the samurai that smells of flowers. And she has this big mission of going to find him, and she enlists the help of these two samurais. And these two samurais are very much polar opposites of each other. Mugen is very much of a unorthodox street urchin, vagabond type figure. Jin is much more of a disciplined samurai. Very much follows the teachings of the ways of the samurai, and very much more kind of reserved, calm, level-headed of one of the two. And throughout the series, and this is also a short series, just like with Cowboy Bebop as well, 26 episodes, gets in, gets out. And it follows their adventures, follows them kind of running into all these kind of different adventures while they're trying in the midst of their journey to find the samurai that smells of flowers. And you throughout the series, you learn more about the characters. You learn more about their backstory, them as people, and then throughout that journey, they also, of course, like any of these journeys, when you see kind of a trio of characters, they get closer to each other there. And was this your first time seeing this series?
Yes, it was actually. I had never watched this one before.
Okay, and what are your thoughts? First time viewing it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things first off, I wanted to know what Champloo meant. I was like, what does that actually mean? What's the significance of the title? So I looked into it, and it's an expression from Okinawa originally, and it means to kind of make things up as you go along or improvise, which is very, very fitting, right? I think this show it's you're sticking with the same set of characters, but it's almost an anthology in just how disparate the episodes are. Some you got like a baseball episode, you got kind of a zombie episode, you got like a art smuggling episode. It's all very, except for like I'd say the last like two or three where it really kind of starts to tell a more straightforward, bigger narrative. But it does, I think, still have some interesting and deep themes going on, even though it is maybe on the surface you could look at it as, more just kind of a fun adventure story. But I think, the idea of making it up as you go along, and then the kind of stated goal, right? Finding the samurai that smells of sunflowers. And they say this a little ways into the show, but I right away I was like, don't sunflowers just not smell? And they don't have a scent to them at all. And so it kind of made me think of a lot of like old Eastern, or especially like Chinese proverbs you hear. There's the one about the sound of one hand clapping and certain things. They're very statements that kind of point out contradictions about life. And I think this show's kind of point that I really took away from it was all about how there kind of is no true purpose to life, like no specific stated objective correct purpose to life as it's ongoing. And I think that's the big thing with all of these characters, is that they're all kind of searching for something, this greater purpose to them, and they feel like their lives are almost stuck because they don't have some grand purpose. And I think doing it in this way where it's just all these one-off adventures, I think it's trying to kind of point out a folly that is in a lot of Western culture, where I think we are more obsessed with the idea that there is some absolutely necessary goal or purpose that life must fulfill. And this show's kind of saying, it's more about the path, going along the path that you go with people that you care about, rather than there being one correct path.
Yeah. It's not the journey, it's the destination. I mean, it's, not the
Ex-
destination, it's the journey there.
yeah, I think
Uh,
that's very much what it's saying.
yeah. So, the series, so I saw the English dub. I always watch the English dub of this. I'd seen this way back when it premiered on Toonami. This was one of those shows, as we always mentioned, something like Cowboy Bebop. It was good, introduced you to anime, introduced you to kind of the beginning of all that, and kind of really got me into it. For a lot of people, did that block and lineup there. And this was one of those shows, and especially the music of it. That was also a big get to it, of how it uses a lot of hip hop, which also they did, which was also a big theme in the Cowboy Bebop as well. They mixed a lot of jazz and hip hop. Watanabe has that very good ear for music. And the producer of this, Nujabes, who was the producer on this show, unfortunately, he passed away. He passed away 2010 at a
Mhm.
young age. He was like 36. But he's the one that did. He's a famous Japanese producer, audio engineer. Did a lot of work on the soundtrack, and that's also one thing about this that's really incredibly memorable about this show is the soundtrack. Like the moments that they do a lot of hip hop, they do a lot of infusing. And normally we talk about like shows and movies that are set in the past and how they have like a modern sound to it. It kind of throws you off to things, but here it just kind of it fits. Why do you think it fits here as opposed to something like we saw in Blue Eye Samurai, where all of a sudden they play like Metallica and it just feels kind of out of place. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that's because the whole of Samurai Champloo is very anachronistic, right? Like from doing like a full on kind of zombie episode to your like a baseball comedy. And it's constantly throwing modern vernacular around in the dialogue. I think it works because the whole thing is imagined as this meeting of the past and the present. Like a small detail that I was a really big fan of was they would use the record skip sound effect, but they would actually skip into a different scene with it too. So it wasn't just that the sound was skipping; there was something actually about the story that was skipping. And I think it's because it's all fleshed out so well and incorporated into the storytelling and the themes that are being displayed. Whereas some like Blue Eyed Samurai, I don't think the music really had a whole lot to do with the narrative. It was just that the music was cool, so let's put it over a fight scene.
Mm, yeah, that's a good point there. And like I say, like it's not trying to adhere to any real history because it's like a fictionalized Edo period of Japan there. Even though it deals with, like I said, there's some kind of out there things like the zombie kind of aspect as well. Of it, you see that also the way that these people fight. I mean, some of the samurais, it's not anything too supernatural, but like it's anime, so you got to like hyper, build it up and make it kind of like I mean, fictional in the way superhero like the way they kind of fight and where they fight certain enemies, and their abilities. Like you have a blind woman who's a master fighter that kind of even at some points best them, Mugen and Jin there, which is interesting. So you have that kind of element of there and like that anime that kind of brings it up, and you see it as well, like in the personality there of even just the way that they fight. Like I said, Mugen is very undisciplined. He's not trained at all. So the way that he kind of fights is like he mixes kind of like break dancing and kind of this unpredictable element. And at first, when Jin and Mugen, when they first meet each other, they're enemies. At first, they're ready to kill each other at first. And Jin finds it super difficult to beat him because it's like I can't tell what you're doing. Like you're just moving around all over the place. It's not style I've never seen before. It's almost like in some ways, like when Spider-Man fights people in a way, he's like son unorthodox. It's like, even when you have enemies like Taskmaster fight him, it's like I can't really read his movements because it is so kind of unorthodox and it's so kind of unplanned. It's kind of hard to get a great beat on him. But you see that of like just in the way they fight, you can tell the differences between them. Like Jin is in an actual stance as opposed to Mugen, who just he doesn't even really hold two hands on his sword. He just kind of uses one arm and just uses sheer force there to do it, and kind of swing in there. And then with the voice cast here, great voice cast. You have Steve Bloom, who people will know. He's Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. He returns here as Mugen here. You have Kirk Thornton, who plays Jin, and you also have Carrie Walgreen, who plays Fu here. Um, Again, really great English dub with this. I think is it one of the cases you think where people kind of prefer the English dub as opposed to the Japanese dub with this?
Yeah, for everything I could tell, I try and research each show that we're going to talk about and sort of like what generally seems to be considered the better version. I think this 100% goes on the same shelf with Cowboy Bebop, a lot of the Studio Ghibli catalog, Yu Yu Hakusho, where the English dub just has so much personality and it feels because it's such a kind of clash of Western and Eastern sensibilities in a single project, it all feels really natural to have it in the English language.
Mm, yeah, because it feels kind of so American Western in the way that it is, plus with the hip hop, like you said, all those kind of. So when you bring in the English kind of maybe voice cast there, it kind of fits there. It doesn't feel too out of place there when they kind of do it, which is really nice. And of course, I mean, Steve Bloom always does an amazing job there and all this. It's very got a very identifiable voice there. I think him and Christopher Sabat, very identifiable.
Mm.
People will know that voice right away from their childhood there. Watching the series, 26 episodes there, and this doesn't have a movie. I don't know Samurai Champloo, I don't think has a movie. I don't believe.
I want to say I read that they maybe talked about doing one, but it just never quite came together.
Yeah, which is a shame. I think I would love to kind of see a movie there of this. Um, yeah, I mean, so you think you see kind of so many similarities between this and Cowboy Bebop. I think of like you have the Mugen character who isn't like Spike. I mean, he's much more dishonorable as when you first meet him than Spike is. They're like Spike generally, I mean, at his heart, even though he acts like he doesn't care, he cares. Mugen seems like a
Yeah.
guy that would definitely leave you for dead and rob your corpse. I mean, if he really wanted to there. Um, do you see this kind of being on par with Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo?
I don't. Cowboy Bebop for me is like top two of all time. It's so dear to my heart. But I do think this is at least approaching it in quality, even if I don't maybe like it quite as much. Like I was saying, I think there's a lot more depth to the themes than it might appear at a first glance. With it's almost the Cowboy Bebop was very much about letting go of the past and being able to live in the present. And I think this is more about each individual's character kind of learning to appreciate the difference between isolation and solitude, if that makes sense.
Mm, yeah, because like, we see these characters very much on their own. Like I said, Mugen, he grew up on his own, orphan, there. Jin, ever since, like, he, learned kinda like, he invested all his time into studying, being a samurai. That led to him being kinda isolated from other people. He talks about his story, how he killed his former master, and that kinda isolated him, away from, all the students that they were with him. So he's just kinda been mostly on his own, and them kind of forming together to make this weird kind of friendship bond that they kind of have with each other. Because at any point, there's points where they're looking for this, like, a samurai that smells of sunflowers. Like, why the fuck are we doing this again? Like, why don't we just leave? Like, because they're not even getting paid by her. Um,
This is
no,
a
like,
bet.
yeah, it's just like, they kinda owe they owe her a life debt because she saved, her life, and then they flip the coin, and it's like, "Okay, heads or tails, okay, we'll go with you." But that's why they kinda just stick with her, but at multiple points, they could just go like, "You know what? I'm just gonna leave," but then they just keep coming back, there, and they just go like, "Okay, we'll stick it out, and we'll go here, and we'll go there with you." What do you think about them together? You think it's a really great trio there?
Yeah, I think it's a very solid trio. I think they all, like I was saying with for the whole idea of them kind of learning the difference between isolation and solitude. I think they're all of these, all three of them find a piece of themselves in each other, and as they develop and appreciate those pieces of each other more, when they then do separate at the end, and you have that kind of end of the journey, going to go our separate ways moment, it feels like, well, now they're happy to be on their own. They don't feel isolated. It's not forced on them the way it was at the beginning, because they have created these real human bonds and real human connections, and it made the journey worth it regardless of what the destination was.
Mm, yeah, I would say very much so. Yeah, and when you watch the episodes, a lot of two-parters. Where you'll see the episode, so the story kind of continues there. You'll see a lot of like to be continued, and they'll carry on like a part two, and then the finale is like a three-parter that they have there to do the finale. Did you like that? Like them being a lot of two-parters there.
Yeah, it totally worked for me. I thought the format works through the whole time. You telling these stories that are mostly unconnected outside of just sharing these couple of characters. I think having a lot of them be two-parters like that, it helps that you can kind of develop the characters that are one-offs in each little story. That way, and I think they do a good job with it. All those characters that they only appear for 2 episodes and they're gone for the rest of the show, those characters do get to actually feel fleshed out. I think with 2 episodes in a way where if you tried to cram it into just a single one each time, might not be as successful.
Yeah. They come across some interesting people. Like you mentioned the blind woman there who they meet, who's like a singer. And then, she's actually a secret assassin who's meant to kill them. Which is good. She has like a good storyline. Then you meet a person who's a thief, and how they kind of form a bond with them, and then they end up getting killed. Um, there was an episode. What was the episode? What was it? Where Jen kind of falls in love with this woman there. They go to a lot of cat houses, and this
Yeah.
you'll see that kind of recurring theme there. And then you do have a narration over this, who are not any of the main characters, but it's like they kind of tell about more of the historical stuff of the period in time. They kind of give more backstory to that. And I guess Edo. I don't know if you know much about the Edo period at all, but
Some not. I'm certainly no expert. Oh,
okay, because they say in the show, I don't know how true this is, they do say in the show that it was a very sexual time, that, very sexually liberated period of time, even being openly gay was apparently seen as more in than being straight, and being, heterosexual, so, don't know if that's exactly true, but okay, I mean, I guess that's the reason why you see a lot of that kinda going on here, why they do a lot of kinda cat houses, there that you see in the series. Um
Mugen gets drugged and like knocked out by what, like 3 different women in like three completely different episodes throughout the show.
Yeah, do you think
He just
does he
keeps
fall
falling
in
for that.
your, like, aggressively horny, anime thing that you don't like?
No, I don't think so. I think he is a womanizer character for sure, but I don't know. He might make some dirty comments here and there, but every time he does, it's framed as everybody else going like, "Ugh, this pig again." It's never like. I think what really bothers me is when it's like casual, like on non-consensual stuff, and then it's treated as like very silly comedy, like, oh haha, that's just how that guy is. When it's like a character trait and other characters are like, ugh, then I think it's much more digestible because it's clearly not meant to be funny or a good thing that this behavior is happening. So here I don't have an issue.
Okay. Alright, that's good to know. Yeah, which I thought yeah, so, man, I do love this cast a lot. I do love them kinda all together, they work really well together, and I think they do balance it. Like you said, they kinda add each part of the like, what's missing from each other, which is really good. Any kinda for you, any low point for this in the series for you?
Honestly, I really can't think of one. I mean, if I was gonna say anything, I mean, it's maybe I do wish it was maybe a little longer. I just like the characters themselves, right? Their Fu in particular, going like, "Ah, I wish this wasn't ending, or I wish this would keep going." It even having watched it only just now for the first time, there is almost this sense of nostalgia I can kind of pick up on where it feels like going back to see some old friends in a way.
Mm, yeah. I mean, yeah, you said that there was a possibility of a movie. I know Watanabe, he's gonna like you mentioned the Lazarus Project that he's gonna do
Mm.
this new anime movie there. Have you ever heard him kind of had thoughts of revisiting older projects that he's done, like going back to Cowboy Bebop, like going back to Samurai Champloo, anything like
Not
that?
that I've seen, but to be fair, I have not read a whole lot of interviews. And so I guess I don't know if it's something that if he's considered at all. I'd be curious to know though.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe he's learned from his animes. Don't go back in the past. Maybe he's like, that's
Yeah.
done.
I mean,
Maybe.
there's a lot of things that are, big IPs and franchises. They just kind of go on forever. I think it's really nice to sometimes have something that's just this nice little package. It says what it wants to say. It gets out. It doesn't take up a ton of time. It's memorable because there's less of it. uh, it's more special because there's less of it. And I really do appreciate creators that have the sense to not do that, because I feel like that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So and this hasn't had a live action adaptation yet. So I don't think it's had a live action adaptation. So it stayed safe though.
Yeah,
It's not like Cowboy Bebop. Which do you know what he said about the live action Cowboy Bebop? Do you know if he?
I feel like I remember him saying something about not liking it, but I couldn't tell you specifically.
Yeah, I think he's. I don't know if I heard him say he didn't want to watch it or he wasn't gonna watch it or something like because he wasn't involved at
Yeah,
all.
something like that. He didn't seem very impressed,
Yeah.
which I understand how he feels.
Um, does this kinda seeing both these series, Cowboy Bebop now and then Samurai Champloo, does it make you wanna go check out Space Dandy? Because that's a series I haven't seen Space Dandy myself, and that's one of the Watanabe series there.
I tried watching it back when it first came out, and I bounced off of it, and I remember thinking it's a little more on the hyper silly end of anime. And not that Samurai Champloo can't be silly and comedic. A lot of it is silly and comedic, but there's just a certain tone or a certain execution to the comedy that I just think feels more natural and organic. Whereas I don't know, Space Dandy just felt, I don't know, chaotically silly. I don't know. It's something where I've put it on my watch list. It's been like 10 years maybe since that happened, since it came out, and I didn't really get into it. So I want to try and give it another chance because I do really like Shinichirō Watanabe's work. But my memory of it was not, I don't know, it just didn't grab me personally.
Yeah. Well, even though it doesn't have a live action adaptation or, a movie, it does have a video game. They did make a Samurai Champloo video game.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
would this be something you'd be interested in playing?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd check out some reviews from back then and see what people thought about it. But that doesn't look bad. The motion of it looks pretty smooth. I assume it was PlayStation 2, probably.
Yeah, this was
Uh,
PlayStation 2.
yeah, I'd be curious to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, it's PlayStation 2. I mean, they seem they got some of it down. They got, like, how he kinda break dances, how he kinda gets that down, fighting there. Yeah, it looks pretty.
There was a Cowboy Bebop game on the PlayStation 2 as well.
Yeah. I actually have never seen let me pull that up real quick. I actually haven't seen that myself. And this is called Samurai Champloo Sidetracked, is what it's
Okay.
called. Came out in '06, is when this came out. Um, would do you think you
Oh,
would
oh,
oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say another clever. I think, and maybe this isn't intentional, but I feel like it could be another clever thing about having every episode be kind of a two-parter. Is it's almost like you're flipping the tape in a way to get to you're playing the other side of the tape to get the other half of the story each time.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing, and then, like, when you see the intro, you also see, like, a disc spinning, so it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, B-sides maybe of it where you gotta kinda get a part 2 there. So it's definitely more musically involved than Cowboy Bebop was, I would say, than his previous series there, but let me see if I can pull up, yeah, Cowboy Bebop there, but do you think Watanabe, you think up there with, like, one of the better, you know, mangaka, anime kinda creators there, or
yeah. He's one of my favorites, hands down. I mean, like I said, Cowboy Bebop was kind of my big childhood one, and it's not been knocked down that list to this day. And that the last couple of years, I've watched quite a lot more, and it still sits at that top spot for me.
yeah, and this is the Cowboy Bebop video game right here. This was also PlayStation 2 there. Um, not that exciting so far, but I mean, we
No,
it's
and
pretty
a lot of those PS2 tie-in games were not the best.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. See that. Okay. Looks decent though. It looks. I mean, I'd be interested to maybe check it out.
Yeah.
Has I don't know. Anime games have a spotty record, for sure.
Yeah, there's not a ton of particularly good ones. I feel like there's a bunch of okay ones. It's probably the best I could say.
Yeah. So is that. Um. So, do you think Samurai Champloo? You think it ended well? You think it had a
Yeah,
great ending?
yeah, I think that those themes about them all kind of absorbing pieces of each other to complete themselves, it changing from being alone, being isolation to at the end, I think it's solitude, right? This much more positive kind of idea and peace with oneself and being able to go separate ways, but for it to not be a bad thing. I think all of those themes really come together at the end, and I think the show, again, despite being so, not focused on telling one particular story the whole time, I think those themes are present the whole time. I think it'd be really easy to gloss over those and say this show's just not that deep. But I think there is that point that's being reinforced, even when it is jumping from narrative to narrative. And yeah, yeah, those last couple episodes, I think they really tie a pretty perfect ribbon on that. If they did a movie, I honestly kind of would want it to be something like how the Cowboy Bebop movie takes place before the show ends.
Mm. Okay. Nothing afterwards. Yeah, it was great going back and revisiting this. I mean, it's a quick watch, 26 episodes there. Each episode's about 20 something minutes, so you can get through it pretty nicely. Knows when to get in, get out. Again, amazing soundtrack with this show that really sucks you in, and the personality of it. Really good characters as well. That are very engaging. How they kind of balance all each other out. You know, throughout the episode, seeing kind of these different adventures that they go on, all are very interesting. Did you have a favorite episode of yours that you really loved?
I think my favorite was the last two or three, kind of right
Okay.
at the end, just because the themes came together so well. But I really, if I had to pick one that was that one, it was more of a one off. I thought the zombie movie episode was very fun. It was very like kind of George Romero Night of the Living Dead zombie. I don't know, that just spoke to me because I'm a horror guy. But
Yeah, that one was really funny, especially the reveal there that what they've been doing all that time. Like that was pretty good. Normally I would hate an episode like this because I hated it in Jujutsu Kaisen, but the baseball episode I actually thought was kind of funny.
I thought
Um,
that was very fun here. Yeah, I totally am with you.
Yeah, because it was like Americans versus Japanese in baseball, and yeah, I thought that was funny. I thought that was kinda really well done. When they first meet each other, the first episode I thought is really great. First episode when they actually meet each other and they fight each other. And they progressively they get into fights throughout the series as well, trying to kill each other, and Fu has to kind of break it up between them. Is always really good time. But yeah, I mean, this is yeah. If you've never seen this series before, I highly recommend checking it out. It is a lot of fun. Still holds up. The animation still looks really good too, even after all this time. Because this is over 2 decades old, almost since this came out. This came out in '04. Yeah, so this was 20 years since this.
20 years. Hey, good timing.
Yeah, 20th anniversary of this. So this was really nice that we got to review this. Yeah, it's available on multiple platforms. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on Prime if you want. I watched it and then watch it on Hulu there. I'm pretty sure it's probably on Crunchyroll as well. I'm pretty sure.
That's where I watched it.
Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll there. They got all that's the anime hub right there. They got everything. So you can watch it there as well. Yeah. What rating would you give Samurai Champloo?
I was trying to decide between because I really do have no complaints. I think I'd give this. I think I'd do this a cinema. I really have no flaws that I have anywhere in this that bothered me. I was with it the whole time, engaged. I generally say, if I'm really loving something, um, I it's catching my attention. I don't even look away from the screen. That's the kind of at the top spot for me. Like there's not a second where I felt, oh, it's slow or the pacing's off. Yeah, every part of this worked for me. The characters are so great. I think it gives a really great life lesson that people think today really need to hear more, especially in the West. Yeah, yeah, total. This is cinema for me.
Uh, yeah, I think I would kind of go highish peak. there. I think something like Cowboy Bebop is this is cinema. I think it's hard to top that, there, but I think he did come close with this. So I'd kinda give it a peek there. Man, a lot of personality in this series, just dripping, oozing there, that I really loved a lot. So yeah, very much a peak for Samurai Champloo there. Um
I'm definitely picking up a physical edition of this as soon as I can.
Yeah. I heard the if you get the manga as well, there's, like, extra stuff in the manga, like, extra
Oh,
scenes and everything like that. And if this is, I don't know if this is how true that is, but this is from, like, Comic Book Rant here. This is there have been, a few different interpretations of the title since it's very easy for the Japanese language to contain multitude of puns and really, any little string of characters. The word "shampoo" comes from the word for Japanese stir-fried dish.
hmm.
Although that's not likely to be the meaning intended by Watanabe, a more likely explanation is that it's supposed to imply remix, which definitely makes sense given the hip hop nature of the show and the constant anachronisms featured in the series. So, if people wanted to know that right there, that could be an explanation there.
That
Um,
fits pretty well with the explanation that I read.
yeah, and Mugen, his name is yet another pun, means without limitation.
Mm.
Is what his name means there. So yeah, just a little fun little, Samurai Champloo facts there, if people didn't know. So yeah, you gave it This Is Cinema, I gave it a peek for Samurai Champloo.